Hey, this is Brandon Smitley from BrandonSmitley.com and part of EliteFTS.com. Today I'm going to show you a trick to help lock out a conventional deadlift. I've gotten some questions on, I get stuck around my knees, how do I get past my knees, work on my lockout, things of that nature. This is an issue that I've had and I still tend to have myself, but since converting over to sumo, I don't have that issue as much anymore. But this was a major trick that I used to help me lock out some really heavy deadlifts and get my deadlift to continue to progress over the past few years. It seems that it may be unconventional to do this at certain times, but when it comes to a meet or a PR attempt or a max effort attempt, this can help you actually lock out the weight, decrease your actual pull distance, and help you get your glutes through. Okay, so like I mentioned, most people have problems locking out their deadlift, usually transitioning from past the knee to getting their hips through. Most people tend to think about once they get here, continue to pull back. Well, you still want to continue to pull back, they tend to lean back. And what happens is they aren't able to activate their glutes because they're actually extending with their lower back. What you need to do is be able to shoot your glutes through to the bar. Now what helps with that during a maximal effort attempt, once the bar is past the knees and the bar is continuing to move, even if it's moving slowly, what you need to actively think about is driving your hips forward, but then also blowing out your air and shoving your hips forward. So if I was grinding through a deadlift here and I'm pulling, my tendency is to lean back. Well, the lower back follows the arch of the head. So if my head's leaned back, my lower back's arched, and it's harder for me to get my glutes through because I'm still in extension. Once you're here, then you want to start to blow your air out, shove your hips forward, and tuck your chin down. There. So as it may be hard to look with an empty bar, because I have no problem lifting this amount of weight, once you start to grind, you really want to, there. Because as you notice, my hips follow my chin, which makes it easier to get my glutes through. Alright, again, so from a different angle, most people have their sticking points right around this area. So again, you still want to keep your back tight, but once you start to grind, so once the bar starts to come past my knees and I'm grinding, I probably still have my air held at this point, which you very well should. But once the bar starts to slow down drastically, this is probably wherever you start to stick, you're going to blow your air out, shove your hips forward, and tuck your chin down. So grinding, there. As you'll see, my pull is considerably lower if I went to a regular pull and kept leaning back, throwing my head back. So most people would be here, and they keep leaning back, leaning back, leaning back, leaning back. Lockout's here. As opposed to when I blow my air out, my lockout comes there. So as you see, that's a considerable difference in lockout length and pull length. So I'm moving the bar a drastically different amount of distance. So a drill you can do to work on this is pin pulls, which there's nothing wrong with pin pulls, but drop your weight probably around 20% what you would normally use your pin pulls with. Grab some straps so your grip's not giving out. And what you're going to do is you're basically going to set up in that spot right below where you stick. So for me conventionally it's right above my kneecaps. And all you're going to do is work on grooving that pattern, but also blowing your air out at the same time and throwing your hips forward, squeezing your glutes. So it looks like something like this.
Okay, here's an example of me pulling, I believe it was 485, third attempt at a meet. This is when I still pull conventional. While my setup wasn't the greatest at the time, I utilized this technique very well to help lock this weight out. So as you'll see, as I begin to grind and slowly pass the knee, I will let my air out, and then I begin to throw my hips through and then tuck my chin there towards the end and that's how I lock the weight out.
Alright, that concludes this video on a tip to help you lock out your conventional deadlift. As for a sumo, you can probably get a similar effect by just tucking your chin and throwing your glutes forward. Blowing your air out with sumo tends to not work as well from personal experience, but you can also give it a try. Again, the key points that you need to remember are: get your hips through, so squeeze your glutes, blow your air out forcefully, and then let your head tuck. Again, what that does is your cervical spine, so your neck, tends to follow the similar spine of your lumbar or your lower back. So if your low back is arched and extended, you have a much harder time getting your glutes through because you're using your erectors for extension. But once you focus on curling your hips forward, squeezing your glutes, and chucking your chin at the same time, it becomes much easier to squeeze your glutes and get your hips through. Now, blowing your air out, people think, oh, you're going to lose tightness, that's not going to help. Well, when you blow your air out, what happens is when we take that big air, usually we're in an extended position in the T-spine, which it still causes the same problems we were having with their thoracic and lumbar. Your lumbar tends to arch, your thoracic is arched, and you have way too much extension. But when you come to lock the bar out and you blow that air down, your rib cage is going to fall down and contract, your glutes are going to be able to come through, and your shoulders are actually going to drop, giving you a shorter pull, and therefore hopefully let you lock out a PR weight. Thanks for checking in, and this is Brandon Smitley from BrandonSmitley.com and part of EliteFTS.com. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comment section.